Hello geometry students, welcome back to Geometry with Mr. Farina. Today we talk about Unit 2, Day 3, which is supplementary and complementary angles. The first set of angles we're going to look at are supplementary. And supplementary angles are two angles that have a sum of 180 degrees. Alright, so we say supplementary angles are two angles whose measure have a sum of 180. Now, when we talk about, if we know one angle, we say its supplement is such and such. So if we know one angle is 100 degrees, we say its supplement is going to be 80 degrees. Okay? Now, supplementary angles are angles that add up to 180, and complementary angles are angles that have a sum of 90 degrees. And we say these angles are complements of each other. So when we refer to complement or supplement, it's talking about the other angle in the relationship. Okay? So when we look at this, it says determine whether the following pairs of angles are complementary, supplementary, or neither. Well, when we look at these two, if I take these, using angle addition, we would say 22 plus 158. That adds up to 180. So these two angles, since they add up to 180, would be supplementary. Alright. Now these two angles, alright, when you look at the relationship and we add them together, right, 15 plus 85 is 100. Well, they don't add up to 90, they don't add up to 180, so this is going to be neither. And when you look at this, 55 plus 35, that adds up to 90, so these would be complementary angles. And just to give you an idea again, if we know this 55 degree, this angle is 55 degrees, we say its complement. This would be the complement of that angle. Okay, so it's important to know the different vocabularies and the way they're stated. So in example 2 here, says find the complement and the supplement for each angle. So, first example, the complement. When we look at it, complementary angles have to add up to 90. So the easiest way to do it is just take the 90, subtract the 41, and that means it would end up being 49 degrees. So the complement of this angle would be 49 degrees. Now, the supplement. Supplementary angles add up to 180, so the easiest way to figure that out would be 180 minus 41, and 180 minus 41 is going to be 139 degrees. So the supplement of the angle would be 139 degrees. Take a minute to pause the video and try the next example on your own, and then unpause it to come back and see if you were correct. So the next angle is 86 degrees. The complement, to find that, they have to add up to 90, so we do 90 minus 86, which would give you 4 degrees would be the complement. The supplement would be 180 minus 86, which would be 94 degrees. Hopefully you were able to get that correct. Alright. Now, there are two theorems that follow. Remember, we just talked about all these conditionals and converses and stuff like that. These theorems will always be written as a conditional. Okay? So the first theorem we look at is if two angles are supplements of the same angle, then the two angles are going to be congruent. We could also replace the word supplement with the same angle could be replaced with congruent angles. Meaning, if we know A and B are supplementary, alright, that means they add up to 180. Okay, if I also say B and C are supplementary, right, what can we conclude from these two statements? Well, if we say B is, say, 100 degrees, that B is 100 degrees, this B is 100 degrees, what would the measure of angle A be? Well, 180 minus 100 is 80. What would angle C be? 180 minus 100 is 80. Notice what we get here. Are A and C supplementary, or do they end up being congruent? Well, these end up being congruent. So we would say A is congruent to C, and the reason would be if two angles are supplements of, they are supplementary to the same angles, alright, then we can conclude that the two angles are congruent. Now, what this congruent part is saying is if I know A and B are supplementary, and then I know, say, C and D are supplementary, but then I go ahead and I say, okay, B is congruent to C. But what happens is, if these are congruent, we also conclude that the other angles A and D must be congruent. So it's a hard theorem to kind of digest right now, but once we start applying it, it'll make more sense. Now the next theorem, 2-3, is the same exact thing, but instead of dealing with supplementary, we're dealing with complementary. Okay, so for example, in the first part, when we're complements of the same angle, we would say A plus B equals 90. Alright, B plus C equals 90. Well, if A and C are complements at the same angle, what can we conclude about A and C? That they would be congruent. And the reason would be this theorem here. Okay. Now, theorem 2-4 is pretty much common sense. All right angles are congruent. Well, all right angles are 90 degrees. So 90-degree angles have the same measure, therefore they will always be congruent. And then theorem 2-5, if two angles are congruent and supplementary, then each angle is a right angle. Well, if they're congruent and supplementary, that means both have to add up to 180. Well, two angles that add up to 180 that are the same are always 90 degrees. Okay, so looking at example 3 here, A and B are complementary, B and C are supplementary. Okay, and angle C is 147 degrees. Find the measure of these angles. Well, you know angle A and B have to add up to 90 degrees. And you know angle B and C, because they're supplementary, have to add up to 180 degrees. Well, if angle C is 147 degrees, let's substitute that value in here. Angle B plus 147 equals 180. And if I solve for B, subtract 147, you get 33 degrees for B. So we know B is 33 degrees. Now we can take this value of B and substitute it in over here. So angle A So let's look ahead at the next example here. So the way we look at it, it says again A and B are complementary. Angle A is 3x plus 2, angle B is 2x minus 22. Let's figure this out. So in order to find A and B, the first thing you have to do is find x. Well, if these angles are complementary, we know angle A plus angle B have to add up to 90 degrees because they're complementary. Well, if we substitute the values of these angles into the expression, we get 3x plus 12 plus angle B is 2x minus 22 equals 90. Now we can go ahead and solve. 5x minus 10 equals 90. 5x equals 100. X is equal to 20. And once we know x, A and B are easy to find because we can substitute them in. So angle A would be 3 times 20 plus 12, which is going to give you 72. And angle B, there's two ways you can do it. One, you can substitute the value in. That's no problem. Alright, and 40 minus 22 is 18. Or you could also find angle B just by doing 90 minus angle A, which is 72, which also gives you 18. Either way you look at it, you'll get the same answer. Alright. So let's look at example 5. Okay, what is the measure of angle MOP? Well, if you look at angle MOP, oops, why did that move there? Why is this doing this? And angle MOP right there is going to be angle MOP plus angle MOT should add up to 90 degrees because this box here tells us that's a 90-degree angle. Well, the easiest way to find angle MOP is to do 90 minus the angle here, which is 5 degrees. So angle MOP is equal to 85 degrees. Okay? Now, example 6 says, find the measures angle ABD and DBC. Well, if we look at these two angles, if we put them together, what do these two angles add up to? They add up to 180, so we could say that angle ABD and angle DBC are supplementary. Alright, which means they add up to 180. So 8x plus x plus 27 adds up to 180. 9x equals, would that be 153? And you get x is equal to, oops, that one. And 153 divided by 9 will give you 17. Alright, once we have x, now we can easily plug it in. So, 8 here, angle ABD would be 8 times 17, which is 136 degrees. And there are two ways you can find angle DBC. One, you can do 180 minus ABD, or you can just plug x in. So 17 plus 27 is 44 degrees. Alright. Looking ahead. If GHI and JKL are complementary, find these angle measures. Alright, take a moment to try this problem on your own. Pause the video and come back to it in a minute. And hopefully you're back. And when we look at these, if these are complementary, we know they add up to 90. So our setup would be 8r plus 9 plus 7r plus 6 equals 90. 15r plus 15 equals 90. 15r equals 75. So r is equal to 5. And now we can plug that back in. 8 times 5 plus 9 gives you 49 degrees. 7 times 5 plus 6 gives you 41 degrees. And we are done. Now the word problems. Do not make these harder than they really are. You kind of need to know from Algebra 1 all your keywords for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Alright, so looking at it, you have to know that is a keyword for multiplication or division. So when we look at it, we highlight where is. And all we're going to do is translate. Now, one key factor is when we ever see angle, we have to think x. That's key. When we see the word supplement, alright, you got to remember a supplement, to find a supplement of an angle, such as if I had a 100-degree angle, its supplement would be 180 minus 100, which is 80. So we say the supplement of an angle, if we don't know it, is 180 minus x. And anytime we see the word complement, we think it's 90 minus x. So anytime you see these words, put these in parentheses. So the left side of the is sign. So equals goes there. And angle, right away we said angle is x. Is, so equals, 62 degrees larger than. That is the key word for addition. Key phrase, I should say. So 62 degrees larger than its supplement. Well, if its supplement is 180 minus x, and we're 62 degrees larger than that, we go ahead and add the 62. So to find the measure of the angle, all we do is we go ahead and solve for x. X equals, drop the parentheses, combine like terms, 242 minus x. When you solve it, you get 2x equals 242. X is equal to 121. Alright, so the measure of the angle here is equal to 121 degrees. Okay, so we look at the second example here. Very similar. An angle is 24 degrees less than twice its complement. So find the is part. There's the is. Translate the left side. An angle, right away, x equals 24 degrees less than, so we know we're going to be subtracting 24, twice its complement. Well, anytime you see the word complement, we put 90 minus x. If we twice that, we have to multiply that by 2. So x equals 2 times 90 minus x minus a 24. Find the measure of the angle. Do the same thing. Solve for x, and that will give you the measure of the angle. So x equals 180 minus 2x minus 24. Combine like terms. X equals 156 minus 2x. Add the 2x to both sides. 3x equals 156. So x equals 52 degrees. So the key here, guys, is in these sentences and these problems, anytime you see the word angle, you know to put x in its place. When you see the word supplement, it's 180 minus x, and complement, 90 minus x. All right, get working on the homework, and we'll see you tomorrow.